Okay, so testing the chat, testing the video, testing the audio. Do we have a live stream? Okay, just as a reference point, right now I'm going to switch on the string of lights behind me. I want to see how long it takes to show up in the feed. Okay. Okay, so there's some delay, but it's not too bad. And that gives me an idea of how much movement the laptop is having right now, too. Alright. If I have the lights on, is that going to be distracting? Or does that matter? I don't know. Because I'm trying to figure whether or not to have these on in videos and stuff too. So let me know on that if that would be a thing. They're tiny little bats. There we go. They're little bat lights. But yeah. So we should be good now. Right? Yeah, okay. So the audio seems to be working alright. Oh man. Ow, 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 ow. Oh, alright, so it looks like there's, I don't know, a 10-15 second delay, which isn't bad. But no. Tried going to a different tab and it just decided to go to an entirely different stream that I wasn't, working with. Okay, there we go. Alright. Alright. Maybe? Okay. Yeah, alright. So, okay. Right. Let me know if the lights back here are too distracting. No, I didn't. Happy streamiversary, yes. Yes. Ah. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that didn't even register. Wow, okay. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even just the anniversary of streaming, it's the anniversary of, affiliate, too. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Yay. Okay. Tangent. Are the lights gonna bug you? I don't know. Like, this is a thing. Basically, I'm trying to figure whether or not to have them on in videos, so testing them out for this. They're little bats. But, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so, thank you so much for your continued ongoing support of things. Y'all are awesome and much appreciated and just generally fab. Let me see real quick. Okay. Cause like if they were just, one color and stuff, or if they at least cycled at a regular rate, they'd be alright. But like, I just switched it on and off again, right? Or off and on again. And what was it? We've got. Can it make it 10 seconds with consistency? Yeah, now it's starting to switch. So, like, it can make it about 10-15 seconds max with consistency, and then it just decides to do whatever. So you end up with like yellow and purple and green all at the same time. Which I'm not surprised because it was like, a couple of dollars at Walmart a few years ago. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, seriously, let me know if they bug you. Because I can totally just, shut them off and stuff. If need be. Also, just because, they're right here. We've got, we'll let you know if they bug odd lighting pattern design. Yeah. Just because, like, I have it very close at hand and stuff. A short, sneak peek at the next video that I'm working on editing right now. Because dinosaurs and robots. Alright. Rawr. Yes, rawr indeed. Okay. So, I don't have a physical book with me this round, which I will say is both, like, I don't have to juggle it and stuff, but it's also weird to have not the book. I mean, it works linguistically, but like it's still awkward. Okay, to not have the book. There we go. So I have it on my thoroughly janky phone instead, which if I don't respond to stuff as much or as fast or post even less than I usually do the next couple of days, it'll probably be because I have a replacement phone that's coming, because like this part down here is the back of the phone. So I need to go over to T-Mobile tomorrow. See if they can transfer this stuff and give me a new one and something, I don't know, because it's got the like, if something happens to it, then we'll fix it insurance. So, yeah. Anyway, yes, as usual, janky fabulous up in here. So, the version that I have is the Kindle. Come on. Well, it decides if it wants to load or not. The version that I have is the Kindle with like audiobook support. Also, if the weird. Oh, you stop now? No, okay. If the yard work noises are transmitting, apologies, but it sounds like someone's got a leaf blower or whatever back there. But anyway, come on. All right, there we go. I'm still getting used to the format for this, because I know in theory, no noise, thankfully. Okay, good to know. Alright, so we're gonna get into the book itself. But like, take a rest if you need to, guys. Okay, so greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome to this next installment of Botany Book Club. We are working on Opium and Absinthe, chapters 1 through 5. Spoilers ahead. So it starts off. I mean, it starts off with a Dracula quote, which makes sense because apparently, at the time that this is taking place, Dracula has just been published, which is an interesting concept just because, like, Dracula and vampire fiction is, like, has become such a staple that, like, the idea that there is a time in literary history that it wasn't a thing. But also, if streamers were in charge, the world would be much quieter. Seriously. Like, yeah. Okay. Have a good lurk, friends. Pop in if you need to, but take care of yourselves. Okay. So, for the first seriously, it's like the leaf blower or whatever it is, like it sounds like it's a leaf blower, but it's like if there's a constant buzz, then you can kind of drown it out or like ignore it. But it's like in like a 5 second spurts and then it stops and then it picks up again. It's like right now it sounds like there's a horsefly like in my ear. Anyway, moving on, getting into this. Okay, so it takes place 1899. Everything picks up June 8th, 1899. At least that's the date that we have to go with. Our main character is Tilly Pembroke, or Matilda, as she's officially known, but Tilly. And we have the official date of June 8th, 1899, because chapter 1 starts out with her addressing a letter to the author of I'm thinking a newspaper column. And that's the date attached to it. So, we have that as the start point, and our introduction to her through the letter is basically that she's a very curious person, in the sense that if there's a thing that she doesn't know, she wants to find the information. Which makes sense. That's cool. That's a thing that, like, totally down for that. In this particular, she's writing a letter to someone who wrote about visiting elephants. I mean, half of it is her trying to figure out how to address the author, and the other half is asking if the elephant smelled bad. So we get A, she's a curious person. B, most of the curiosity has to do with science and natural history and things like that. C, she says that she couldn't find the information at the Lenox Library, so we know that she does research herself, and after failing to find the information, is then going to ask somebody. And the from the whole like paragraph of trying to figure out how to address the author, just kind of really awkward with general human communication, which same. Wouldn't quite take it that far sometimes, but totally get it. So, our main character, our lead, is mostly concerned with science, finding out info, discovery, that sort of thing. And doesn't have, let's say, proper for a lady of the time social interaction skills, which basically amounts to like she's not likely to be the one to just let the menfolk do whatever, basically, and actually asks questions when she has them. Like some kind of heathen. Seriously. Okay. So, what was it? Which honestly, like, I've gotten that line of like, well, that's not what ladies do, from my grandma a couple times, so. Well, news for you on that one. Anyway. After that, it opens to the main story with, it's better to be a coward than a corpse, as a quote from, what was it? Come on. From the, was he the writing instructor? Stable hand? I want to say it was the stable hand. Groom. There we go. Yeah. From her groom, when getting on her horse, or her sister's horse at that point. Because, she's kind of notorious for not being the most able writer. So, yeah. You are a Slitherpuff Cat person, you cannot fool us. I mean, you're right, honestly. Yeah. Yeah, accurate. So, by, what was it? It's better to be a coward than a corpse. Like, it's better to use caution and don't go full hog into something than to do that and like end up dead because you did that, whatever that happens to be. In this case, galloping on a horse when you don't really know how to ride. In fairness, the horse ended up galloping because she's not that strong of a rider and doesn't really know how to navigate. But there's a certain like botanical lyricism in being thrown from a horse because I think it was a raspberry briar was in the way. Hiding hidden pitfalls, shall we say, in the ditch under the bush. So, thought that was interesting. Oh, yeah. I know it was a time period thing, and okay, I'm just gonna turn this off, because one sec. I have the phone set to auto-rotate just because I use the phone to watch YouTube videos and stuff, but if I have it in my hand and I'm waving it around, it just keeps rotating the book and it's being annoying. So we're gonna not do that. Okay. I know it's a time period thing and a class thing, but what was it? There's a quote on just pages 2 and 3. Because Tilly, as stated, asks questions about things. That's how she's always been, and everyone knows that's how she's always been, and it's like compared to her sister, who is the nice and proper one, perceivably at least. Tilly's like the one that the rest of the family keeps telling to just shut up, or they make excuses for, because, well, she's just, she had some kind of medical thing, so like it's fine. Like, just because your kid is doing experiments with themselves as the guinea pig, I'm speaking at this point of the basically eating a cake to try and see if doing so would sop up / absorb the alcohol that was in her system, or drinking alcohol after eating cake. It's not really discussed at that point, just that it was at a party and she ended up sick afterwards. And the way to remedy the situation to the society at large, because there was a party and people were there and saw all of this, was to claim that the pastry chef, who was not involved in any of that, had picked the wrong ingredients and made one person out of the whole bunch, have food poisoning, because that makes sense. Like, I read stuff about, folks in the aristocracy and whatever as a fiction thing. But, like, and as for, like, a historical perspective, like, it's fascinating and whatever. But just as a thing, right? Like, why? Anyway. So, that's the setup, that's the society that she's dealing with. I forget if it mentions the state, but I believe it's New England in the US, 1899. And it sounds like they're having a lot of the same conversations that people were having at the turn of the current century. But replacing, will all of these families lose their fortunes with, like, the year rollover and the Y2K bug situation? So, yeah. So, we know Tilly asks questions a lot. And then, we've got, what was it? She was 18 now. She no longer had the luxury of her persuasive childhood to, okay, bet. One sec. Again, I'm still getting used to how the Kindle thing operates on the phone with the audio, because it's a slightly different format than regular Kindle stuff. Okay, she was 18 now. She no longer had the luxury of her persuasive childhood to pore over books and endlessly question the gardener, the cook, her sister, and all the maids in order to loosen the stewing questions that constantly simmered in her head. Like, but why? No. Honestly. Okay. Oh, yeah. And phone lives. It's just, okay, one sec. I need to try and wrangle this thing back into its case as much as possible. Alright. What? Why? Okay. She has a horrible habit of thinking and using brains, but is also immature. Yeah, like, it's an interesting combination of having a lot of, like, blatant intelligence, but either because women aren't expected to be smart, aren't expected to, like, have any kind of agency, what have you, or the educational limits that are usually imposed, or down to the aristocracy and whatever limits exist with that. I don't know. But she's got the book smarts, but, like, seems to kind of be the I don't want to say a stereotype, but, like, has the book smarts but not the street smarts per se. You know, the nerdy girl that wants to hang out in the library and not, you know, talk to the men folk. How very dare. I'm just gonna say, though, like, just from the outset, James is irritating. He just is. He really, really is. And even more so in, like, chapter 5, when he's coming around just trying to hit on Tilly. Like, can you not, sir? Can you not? What are you doing? Like, I was kind of expecting some kind of, like, I mean, I've always been interested in you and stuff, and you're, like, you're a cool sort of person, but, because your sister was the older one, I had to marry her instead because our families wanted an alliance, and what was it? And the elder siblings have to get married off first because, you know, that's usually where it ends up going. But no, it's just the irritating, well, you have money and stuff, and, like, they were really happy about him marrying someone who was a Pembroke, so, like, go for it. Like, Dorothy. Dorothy! No. Oh, God. Alright. I am glad that she's met. Because, like, in some books, there's, like, the women folk versus the men folk, or whatever. But she met Tom, who's the doctor's son, and it's not explained what the issue is for him. For the time period, it could be tuberculosis, I don't know. But, like, it's also setting stuff up where it's like, someone is pale and can't go outside and blah blah blah, so they might be a vampire. So, like, doubtful on that one. But, who knows? I didn't get the sense Dorothy was for the match. Thought she was trying to warn Tilly. Yeah. Yeah. That... Yeah. It's one of those that... We're seeing everything from Tilly's perspective. Not to say that she's an unreliable narrator, just that it's from that perspective. And yeah, yeah. It kind of sounded like Dorothy was saying, like, hey, so, he's into you. If you're not into him, let him know, like, now. But if that is a thing that you're, interested in, it would be something to pursue. So, yeah. But yeah, just... James just gives me really skeevy vibes. Honestly, okay, that's attached. Alright, one sec. Alright. Apologies for the movement. We're changing angles slightly because my foot's fallen asleep. No, my entire leg is fallen asleep. Wow, okay. One sec. There we go. Yeah. Because the dude kind of... Chapter 5 ends with Tilly finding out that James and Lucy were having, like, mass arguments. And if James is interested in complacent women, girls, whatever you want to call the person involved, Lucy would have been, she was 3 years older than Tilly, so she would have been 21. And was apparently argumentative. And Tilly tends to let other folks take the lead because, which, fair. But there's times that dynamic isn't maybe the best. Yep. At least not for everybody. Oh, side note, but it was interesting to see a description of getting into and writing side saddle. It's not something that I ever want to do. My knees have a big enough issue with just regular writing, but that was interesting. But yeah. Lucy and James are arguing. The initial point that we meet James, Tilly refers to him in her own narration as not wanting anything to do with her. And when she picks her up after she gets thrown from the horse, it's all like, well, I mean, if I have to deal with you, then fine. Ugh. I'm just so put upon and aggro and stuff. And then this dude turns around and it's like, oh yes, we have lost someone. No one knows what it feels like to lose someone aside from us. Like, I get that, you know, I was close to this person, you were close to this person, let's commiserate. Like, that's a thing, but, dude, your fiance was murdered by something, someone. What, like 4 days ago? And now you're hitting on her little sister who you have visibly detested for the last however long that you've known the lot of them. And you think that everyone involved is just gonna be chill with that? Like, what? What is happening? No. But yeah, no, I do quite like that she was able to have a little banter sesh with Tom and I can't remember his name, but the newsy guy who apparently they now have joint custody of a copy of Dracula. That was an interesting plot point. Yeah. So, looking forward to how that develops. It was also interesting to see the kind of I don't know, dual perception of the laudanum. Also, I will say, while absinthe was a thing for a good while, I think from what Fiona said, I want to say absinthe has been around since the 1700s. It's like when you need to listen to your own podcast episodes more. But, but I believe it was the 1700s. Could be wrong on that. But it only really became mass popularized when I think it was whiskey. It was either, it might have been beer. But when one of the other preferred alcohols, or wine. Yeah, it must have been wine that was taxed more. When one of the other preferred alcohols, became too expensive, and I believe it was right around that time that the absinthe spoon came more into it, with the sugar and stuff like that, which is the spoon that is being referenced each time she's talking about the slotted spoon. And if it's gonna bug me, what is his name? Okay. I will say, right, as much as I'm not a fan of Amazon, you have the different colors highlighted for stuff, and then you can go up here and just see all of the notes. So, like, all the quotes and then any notes that you have for them and stuff. So, that's kind of cool. Where is it? Oh, yeah, and there's, at one point, what was it? I forget what her dad's family name was, but it's reinforcing that Tilly is very much different to the rest of the rest of her family, the rest of the society that she finds herself in, because she was really close to her dad. The guy died when she was 8. At present, we don't know why, just that she got a dictionary for, I want to say it was her birthday. Either a week or a month before her dad died. I can't remember right now. But that was a thing that they shared, the love of knowledge and things. And there's probably, especially for the time, there was a lot of racism just in general. But what was it? After her dad died, her grandma used the power of the Pembroke name, whatever that means, to reverse the names of her daughter and her grandkids so that they could inherit the Pembroke estate, because it could only be passed down via the name, which is a whole conversation to unpack at a later date. But, earlier, I was just talking about how she wanted to know more about her dad, but whenever she asked about her dad, whenever she asked her mom about her dad, especially if it was in context of the rumors of his Chinese origins, or Chinese ancestry, rather, the convo just shut down. Yeah, so, Flint, that's what it was. So, her dad, I can't remember his first name, but her dad's family name was Flint. When her dad died, her grandma did something, it was like kind of a throwaway line in there, but that's why she's part of the Pembroke family, because the grandmother's line is Pembroke. Her mom married a Flint, who presumably her dad wasn't like all that wealthy. I don't know. Again, hasn't really been addressed, just that they were in a house. But when she was 8 and her dad died, her grandma reversed the family name somehow so that her daughter and her grandkids would be Pembrokes and thus be able to inherit the Pembroke fortune. But Tilly's also remembering that the last time she saw her grandma cry was when her mom had a stillbirth when she was 5. And that would have been her little brother, who, I don't know if that would be connected to the rest of it or not, but it seems like a lot of them, like, because there's a lot of lines in here where it's like no woman lives a life unscathed. It's what makes us strong. We are broken and mended, remade every time. We must, or it destroys us. And it's like, it's kind of reinforcing that at least the women in the storyline have gone through a lot. So there's subtext to pretty much everything, which, from what we know of the historical period, is something that was influencing a lot of the literature at the time, which is interesting. Just like there was a lot of subtext in the linguistic patterns that were used. and it's represented in here, and that's kind of cool. Um, okay, let me see. Um, also, right, and I'll get back to the her dad maybe being Chinese bit in a sec. Um, I did find it kind of funny that um, the doctor's kid might not have as much book knowledge on the medical side of things as Tilly did when she was having a convo with him. Just like, what? What do you mean there's blister beetles that get stuck on my back? What? Yeah. Which is also a thing that was referenced extensively in The Lost Apothecary, which I still need to make that video and do the write-up. But there we go. Okay. So, okay. Her mother's graying hair was tucked beneath the fine Parisian lace of her cap, and beneath her curls her eyes were piercing and lapis blue. Tilly's father's eyes had been a burnt brown color, possibly a sign of his rumored Chinese ancestry. Now that he had been gone for over 10 years, she supposed she'd never learn if the rumor was true. Her mother abruptly changed the subject whenever Tilly asked. So, yeah. It seems like it might be kind of a throwaway line, or it might be a plot device that is revisited later. I don't know. Want to mention opiates unregulating pain as appears to be happening to Tilly. Totally a thing that can happen. Upregulating. Okay. Alright. Alright. Just because I'm not familiar with the term in that capacity, would upregulating be referring to, like, as you're using it, like, you have to use more in order to get the same effect because your system has gotten used to it? But yeah, no, that totally. Whenever I've used anything that's got an opiate base, it's just been the codeine, I think. There might have been some kind of pain med that I've had after surgery that I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure it's just been the codeine. But yeah, I can totally see that. That, and I know that different people have different ways of communicating, different, like, patterns of physicality and stuff. Tolerance is in play as well, but we mean can actually increase. Okay, yeah, alright. That is weird. understandable, but weird. If it's a thing that's supposed to limit pain, and taking it might increase pain, so you have to take more. It's like, but yeah, no, that's kind of the vibe that I was getting, but again, not familiar with that side of the opiate thing. So yeah, no, good to know. Good to know. That definitely sounds like something that's happening to her, though. But like, I get the different, and Grandma wants her to go off cold turkey. Yeah, yeah. Grandma wants her to go off cold turkey. Everyone's treating her like she's gonna blow away and die if there's any discussion of anything. And now her dead sister's fiance is hitting on her. Like, Tilly's had a good whole time of it. Like, what? She's been in a room for what? 3 days, probably. Couple days. So all of this is happening in the span of like a week. And she's there trying to process all of it. Like, and Sherlock Holmes saying what happened to her sister while trying to navigate being in a world where her sister isn't. And it's like, guys, come on. But like, I get that different people have different, like, demonstrative modes and all that, but the idea that you know that something is wrong because your mom has come over to say hi and give you a kiss. I don't know. Stop moving! I keep trying to just, like, go to the next page or something, and it's like, oh, you want to go to the last page? Okay. What? Okay. Also, like, again, time period, social hierarchy, or whatever, I guess. I understand why, but if you have, like, if you have a service person you are paying, you know, in this case, the maid who was attending to Lucy, and something happens, like, again, just like with the pastry chef, it's not their fault, but the service personnel get punished anyway, and it's like, I get it's a time period thing. I get that it's technically your job to do whatever, and there was something wonky, so, like, we're gonna save face or whatever, but still have an issue with that one. For the maid situation, there was an accusation that Betty was stealing something, but then the person before Betty was accused of stealing something too, and the answer is to just keep firing people. So, also, right? Your kid's been missing for 2 days. And your response to asking where she is and why no one has contacted her friends to see if they've seen her is, all brides are silly and restless. Lucy will return soon. Tonight even. Like, eh, what? Come on. Oh, yeah. Just as a thing. I vaguely remember being a bit nauseous when I've needed to take something with codeine in it, but then I've always eaten something while I've taken it, and the dosing for laudanum, I mean, A, knowing how addictive it is, like, B, it just seems real jank. Anyway, because, like, it's being used, and historically, right, it's used as a pain reliever, but also as knockout meds if you want to just not be awake anymore. But also is sometimes given to kids. Also, right? What was it? I do find it interesting that the doctor is referring to it just as opium, because everyone has laudanum or some version of opium tincture on the shelf, so just make sure that it's at 10% strength. It's like, well, I mean, for the time period, everyone has some kind of, like, alcohol disinfectant thing, so, like, just make sure that it's at, 75% or higher, and you should be good. Like, what? Again, makes sense for the time, but oh wow. Also, when someone is inspecting the accoutrement of one's medical provider, that's also their house, and you find what could be the charred remains of someone's, like, wonky toe infection on a cauterizing implement. I have to wonder what kind of general hygiene and materials care is being implemented by said establishments. Especially when the response to, like, oh, this might be someone's, toe thing. I don't know, because, I know that lady had an issue a while back. It's just, I mean, yeah, probably. From the kid that lives there. Or the young gentleman, shall we say. Because the dude's 20. From the dude that lives there. Ah. Yeah. Also, just the. I'm interested to know where it goes, because the whole woman found dead in the shadow of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, with vampire-type punctures found on the neck. There was no blood anywhere. Reads like an episode of CSI that I've seen about 4 times. So, I'm interested to see where this takes it. Um, that and the same grandma who is talking down to everybody about how unladylike certain people are, and you have to do that. Just seemingly covering her own issues and anxiety and whatever else by bossing everyone around, because at least that is something that she has control over. Sneaks off to go smoke a pipe in a room. Which, fine, everyone's, got their own coping mechanisms and stuff. But, like, there's a certain hypocrisy in ranting about how your family members aren't living up to the standard of societal femininity or whatever it is that she's going off about. Like, just faffing off to smoke a pipe. Alright. Oh yeah, this was the passage. I remember that I had marked it, but I couldn't remember where it was exactly. We are Pembrokes. Don't be a flint. From her grandma to Tilly. I.e., we are high society, we are classy, we are any number of other adjectives. Don't be like your idiot, commoner, etc. father. The dad who, fostered her interest in science and discovery and analyzing data, who is like who she is very much like. At which point I'm reminded of it's a meme that came from a show, but I can't remember what the source material is, so there you go. But it's like, yeah, just don't be all of that. Princess Diaries. Wow, okay. That's where it's from. That's where it's from. Yeah, alright, okay. Just don't be like, you just gestured to all of me. Exactly. You need to, like, fix your hair and, like, put some makeup on and, like, don't wear glasses because those just don't look good. And, like, do this and don't do that. Like, what are you doing? Ew. No one likes nerds. I know there's reasons to it, and I want to see the mother and grandmother dynamic explored a little bit more as we're going through it, and to see it be like, or to see if there's an explanation, like the older members of the family have been hurt repeatedly, which is alluded to in the first couple of chapters, enough that in order to try and protect the younger generation, we're gonna enact all of these restrictions or whatever. It would still be irritating. It would still be oppressive, but it would be understandable. So, yeah. Of course, also, the both of them are part of the Temperance Society of Union Square, and from what I know historically and from what it's relaying in here, physical discomfort is perceived as a personal failing rather than you have a legitimate illness, so there you go. Yeah. Oh, again, the interest in funerary rites and things, as it is, thought this was interesting. What was it? A large wreath of laurel hung from the grand front door. White crepe and ribbons tied to the brass knocker signified that Lucy had been young and unmarried. There was no black to signify that she had any of the achievements she was supposed to have deserved, a husband or old age. Which, A, shows that at the time, the only achievements that a woman was supposed to have, really, was living a long time, getting married, and having kids. Most of the time, two of those three might be might be a thing. The laurel is interesting because that's usually associated with victory, but also with like purification. And then the white would be innocence, because she's not married, so therefore virginal, because reasons. Oh yeah, and she's contemplating the gardenias and the overpowering scent of the gardenias, and that might be why they've been brought into the wake, because as Lucy was telling her at one point, perfumes are created to mask the scent of something wretched. So, again, historically, perfumes and applied body scents and things have been used to cover up body odor. I want to say it was the Renaissance period that they started using rose oil for it, but traditionally, especially in eras where brushing teeth wasn't really a thing, you put a drop of rose oil, like, on the top and bottom lip, or like just above and just below, because then it would perfume your breath and get rid of any bad breath odor situation that you're dealing with. But yeah, just talking about approaching the casket, and the scent of gardenias nearly crushed her as she approached. Yeah, that's between the emotional weight and the heavy, cloying scent that a lot of flowers, especially a lot of flowers that have become synonymous with funerary practices, have, because they are fumigants, or they mask the scent that well. It depends on the cultural practice, but that tends to be where a lot of things come from with that. And then she smelled vaguely of aniseed, vaguely like aniseed, or no, she smelled vaguely of aniseed, like licorice, which is interesting. I hadn't keyed into it before, at which point, just leave a note. At which point, absinthe is generally described as having kind of an anise flavor, or an anise scent. So that might have something to do with that. I don't know. We'll see. She was found with an absinthe bottle. So unknown on that one. But getting back to the gardenias and stuff, that's that's one reason that I have a really hard time around lilies, because I don't know if it was the funerary flower of choice for like 90s Southern California or what, but every funeral that I went to as a kid had a very particular scent, and had like a lot of lilies, like the white lilies, or sometimes tiger lilies, but mostly the white lilies. And yeah, if yeah, between scent memory and emotional memory, like, really, really vibing with that one. Also, just it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But as she's going, oh man, remember to stretch when you need to, guys. But at the time, it's like now there's so many vampire novels and everything. But at the time, excuse me, the only one that was really readily accessible was the newly published Dracula. And now, Dracula is a classic and has like a bunch of different special editions and whatever. But at the time, it was seen as like the cheap, like, nonsense, like, I don't know, trash fiction or something. Which is an interesting dichotomy. Because it's like the start of the epic vampire novels, and at the time that it was released, just like a lot of things, honestly, but at the time that it was released, it was seen as not the best of fiction choices and stuff. And again, for like future stuff, it'd be interesting to see if when the rest of the family finds out that she's been reading it, because I'm anticipating there's gonna be some kind of blow up if when they find it or find out she's been reading Dracula. And I don't know, think that she's obsessively morbid or something because her sister might have been killed by vampires, so therefore, instead of someone doing research. So, I don't know. We'll see on that. And just the language, too. What was it? There's a table by the door, and nearby was a three-legged table, which a three-legged table was a style choice for the time. Understandable. But B, the three-legged style tends to not have as much stability as a four-legged style, just because there's one less limb on it. It's fine as long as you're not, running into it. In which case there might be an issue. I don't know. But what was it? The three-legged table, holding a vase choked with white roses. So there's so many that it's choking the vase. It's choking what is holding it. And the white roses would be delivered as condolences. So there's so many people trying to help or whatever that it's making the feeling worse, maybe? Or it's making it harder to breathe, or any number of things. And then there's this random piece of paper that has something scribbled on it instead of the rest of the milieu that is on the desk. So that is what is gravitated towards. So thought that was thought that was interesting too. Also it okay, let's see. What is his name? Finally. Metzinger. Okay. Yeah. Can't remember what his first name is, but I want to say Ian, maybe? Ian Metzinger. It says on the notes that he's left her. He walks on foot from wherever his base of operations is to her house. So doesn't have a lot of cash for a handsome. Understandable. Dude sells papers. He can be contacted at the Globe, or no, at the World. And used his last however many coins it was, last like 3 cents or whatever it was, for oatmeal. So, again, Tilly doesn't seem to much care about aristocracy or any of that, which, fair. But does have an interest in interesting people. So far, she's got Dorothy from her regular life as a friend. Ada, who's technically her maid, but also a friend who tries to keep her out of shenanigans. Tom, who I really want to see more of, because, dude's got an interesting sense of humor. And I want to say his name's Ian, who seems to be who, because it seems like it's gearing up to have a dual love interest situation or like a love triangle thing or something. Where one's the doctor's kid and one is selling papers on a street corner. And, you know, the doctor's kid, well, they can have nice intellectual conversations about medical things. And the other guy, they snark at each other all the time. So, that, I don't know. But, like, society wants her with James, which is a whole thing. But then, I don't know. She's also, I don't know if it's because I kind of relate a lot to Tilly in this context of like being a very curious person and not feeling like you fit into wherever, or if it's reading the character, but I'm kind of getting some Demi Ace vibes. But yeah, so that is I think. Also, no one seems worried at all or interested or trying to figure out who killed Lucy, where her bag ended up, why she would have had absinthe with her when she didn't drink, you know? I don't know. So, yeah. So that is come on. So that is that. All right. It's one of those that it looks pretty cool. It's interesting. Apparently chapter 6 is 8% of the way through. Which, okay. Like page 58 of 375. Which apparently the book just really wants me to go to 375. Which makes no sense, but okay. Yeah. So, Lucy has some connection to absinthe. Maybe. I don't know. Because we know that there was an absinthe bottle found on her when her body was recovered. But also, no, that's the thing. Like, does the reporter guy have something to do with her murder? Is the reporter guy carrying around a slotted spoon because he's trying to find out about absinthe. We don't know. From the like, try and figure out what this is, ha ha ha. I'm guessing that we'll find out a little bit more about that when he comes to pick up the book. But missed that there was an absinthe bottle on her. Yeah, so when she was found, there was an absinthe bottle on her person, but her bag was missing. And reporter guy has an absinthe spoon, which isn't, here nor there really. Yeah, no, like, I get that. Yeah, no, like, honestly. No. One sec. I'm trying to, not lose pens to the side of the bed. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, no, I'm this far into Dorian Gray. So it's not that I'm not interested in it, it's just it's not that I'm not interested, it's that there's other more interesting things, so I don't know. I think this is gonna be the tale of two addicts trying to solve a murder. I mean, it would be interesting if it went that route. I will say. Yeah. Oh. Two addicts and their invalid friend trying to solve a murder. Because, generally speaking, if you introduce a character by name, especially if they have something, to do with other characters of particular plot significance and whatever, then they end up having some kind of role, at least, in the rest of the story. So, yeah. Alright. But yeah. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's part of why the next video to go up is robotics and not, like, a wrap-up for June. Which, that's the 3 hours that I'm trying to edit right now. And I'm probably gonna have to export it and then cut it down more, just because there's like 20 clips right now that it's trying to process. Which is fun. But yeah. So, yeah. Alright. There we go. Yeah. Alright. So, finish Cemetery Boys, 1 star, being generous. Oh, okay. Alright. Good luck with edit and upload. Thank you much. Yeah, haven't started with Cemetery Boys yet, but it's over there. Yeah. I'm like, right now I'm trying to figure logically what I can, tell myself that I want to read for the month, because, we're halfway through. Almost. And so far I've gotten a couple more pages into Dorian Gray and have worked on this. So, but, comics work. We can go with that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, any final thoughts before we end for today, or nah? Also, do you guys want to go raid somebody or just end? Because I'm good with either at this point. Because I'm not seeing anybody on right now. Murder used to be so much easier to get away with. Seriously. Like, yeah. It was a vampire. Like, what? Oh. Like, we don't know. Ah. Not up to reading. Yeah. Understandable. Alright. Wheel. Ow. Thank you much for hanging out and discussing the things with the stuff and the book over yonder here. Have a fabulous rest of your day. If you're watching this on the YouTubes, all of the links and whatnot will be in the description down below. And I will see you next time. Alright. Bye, friends. Have a fabulous rest of your day. There you go. Hugs all around! Yeah. I will say, I do love the cover art, though. Like, that is on point. Regardless of anything to do with the contents, that art is great. So, yeah. Okay. So, with that, we shall end for today. Okay. Again, thank you much, everybody, for hanging out and being in the chat, just lurking, whatever. Next week we're gonna do chapters. Okay, it was 1 to 5. So yeah. So next week we're gonna do some more chapters on Monday. Yeah. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.